Hello, everyone. It is Thursday, the 16th of May, and we have almost made it to Friday, which, some weeks just are like that. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Ghostery and Wolfram, for doing your mod stuff. Christine, I hope that my, sample question helps. And let's see here. Tammy, I have no idea. I seem to hurt the most on really sunny days. However, today there is a storm front that's moving in, and all day I'm like, could it just hurry up and rain so I could feel better? Welcome, Cynthia, and Audio Coffee, and Chris, and Free Spirit Prepping and News. Good morning, or morning. It's evening now. Y'all know what I mean. It's the youngest, 2 ferals. It was their last day of school, and I am possibly terrified about what we're gonna do for the entire summer because they were like, "We're already bored." I was like, "Oh, Lord." Our first story is well, and it's an incredible headline, so I hope that this, article is as cool, but a teen kidnapped 26 years ago was rescued from a neighbor's cellar that was just 100 yards away in Algeria. Welcome, Jude. Oh, Audio Coffee, I was right for you. See, I was divining it from the spirit animals. So let's get into this case because this sounds all of the weird. A teenager who went missing in 1998 was found alive over the weekend in a cellar of his alleged kidnapper's home, just 300 feet away from his family's residence in Algeria. Omar bin Omaran was rescued Sunday from the house of his longtime captor after he went missing on his way to a vocational school some 26 years ago, according to the Algerian media reports. Omar, now 45 with a beard, was saved from the basement below his neighbor's hay covered floor in some sort of pen. What in the absolute final form Satan is this? I I am confused. So Omar, now 45 with a beard, he was okay. A video showing the confused looking detainee was posted on social media. His captor or alleged captor is a 61-year-old man who lived alone and was taken into custody, according to the Attorney General's office. Investigators were reportedly tipped off by the victim's family after the suspect's brother suggested his sibling was involved in a kidnap in social media post while the pair were fighting over inheritance. The Okay, so then the National Police reopened the investigation and searched the man's home. This poor man, he's been I cannot with people. So the police reopened the investigation and searched the man's home until it discovered a trapdoor hidden underneath hay. They found Omar behind the door, prosecutors say. Omar was taken to a medical center for treatment, both physical and psychological, while the unnamed suspect will go on trial for the heinous crime, the Attorney General's office said. The teen's alleged abductor was also accused of unaliving his dog. What is up with people that want to hurt doggos? I cannot with these people. Straight to Snake Island. Seen in the photos seen in photos of him the year he went missing. This absolute jerk face. The dog lingered around the suspect's home for a whole month after Omar disappeared. Shortly after, the dog's unalive body was left in front of Omar's family home. Y'all, if this was my son, Mr. Mo would be out there because I would be foaming at the mouth, honey badger, like, let me at him, let me. Mr. Mr. Mo would have to would have to be the voice of reason because you heard a doggo, I can't find my son, we're scrapping, taking out the earrings, putting up the hair. It's Scrappy Doo time. Sadly, Omar's mother, who never stopped looking for her missing son, one of her 9 children, passed away in 2013, his uncle told Algerian media. While other family members believed he was unalive during the country's civil war during the 1990s and early 2000s, his mother felt in her heart that he was still alive. Her last wish, quote, "Please do not stop searching for Omar. I'm sure he's alive," according to the reports. The victim reportedly told family members that he would sometimes see them walking by through a window in his abductor's home, but was unable to speak or call out to them, as if he was under some sort of spell. Welcome, Marlena Mars and Phoenix Fire and Jude. So I hope this young man well, he's not young man anymore, but he kind of, my guess, and I'm not a psychological person, but he probably has arrested development at the time of about a teenager because he's lost all socialization. But I hope that they have systems in place to really let him live the rest of his life as full as possible because he had so much of his life stolen. In an update to a story that we did, I believe either last night or yesterday morning, the suspect in the deadly Florida boat crash that unfortunately cost a 15-year-old ballerina her life had, quote, "absolutely no idea that the vessel was involved," his attorney says. So it could be possible. I don't know enough about boats and things to know if you're in a larger vessel, would you feel it if you ran into a really small vessel or a person? I am not quite sure if this is, kind of cover your behind or absolutely truthful. And I think that it's gonna have to go to court to kind of figure that out. Welcome, Taz. The Florida boater suspected of operating the vessel that hit and killed 15-year-old ballerina claims he had, quote, "absolutely no idea his boat was allegedly involved in the hit and run crash," his attorney says. Carlos Guillermo Alonso, 78 of Coral Gables, is accused of running over Ella Ray Adler in his 42-foot long Boston whaler last Saturday in Biscayne Bay and fleeing, according to the incident report from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Alonso's attorney, Karen Field Krasnoff, said her client is devastated over the tragedy but had no idea he was the key suspect when police questioned him about the incident. And this could very well be true. Never attribute to malice what could just be pure stupidity or, we don't know what happened. So, I encourage people to give him, his day in court, and maybe these things are actually true. But, this young lady lost her life and he didn't stop, and I can't imagine how heartbreaking it was for the family. Quote, "We don't know at this time whether Alonso or his boat were involved in the crash," Krasnoff told NBC6. "If his boat was involved, I can tell you he had absolutely no idea that that is what happened that day. He was as devastated as anyone can be." The FWC's report lists Alonso, who is cooperating with the investigation, as the sole occupant of the boat that slammed against Adler when she was in the water celebrating her friend's birthday. Krasnoff reiterated that nothing seemed off to her client that day of the incident, and with Alonso, a boater of more than 50 years, docking his boat in plain sight and going about his day as usual. Welcome, Slidey Pie, and Jamie, welcome, welcome. So, I mean, I really want to believe she was not in a boat. I believe she was water skiing and had just fallen off, but maybe the article will go back and say what happened. She added that Alonso, a Cuban native who arrived in the U.S. under Operation Peter Pan, which ran from 1960 to 1962, has no criminal record, does not drink, nor was he drinking the day that Adler was hit. Quote, "We are devastated for the Adlers, their friends, for their family. There is no question in our minds that this is an absolutely horrific thing that happened, and we pray for and think of their family and friends during this time," Krasnov told the local outlet. Now, I know this is probably that his lawyer will encourage him not to talk to the family, but sometimes, and I'm speaking as a lay tuber, and there's probably like a gajillion reasons you don't do this, but for them to talk through their attorney, it's if something happened to my daughter, I would really want someone to come to me as another person, another human being, not through their lawyer. Again, I am a lay tuber. I am not a law tuber. This is not legal advice because I'm sure there are a gajillion and 12 liability reasons you don't do that. No charges have been filed against Alonso as the investigation is ongoing. So this is what happened. Yeah, so she was water skiing. And I mean, if he did know what was going on, it would seem odd that he would park his big boat, just right in his yard or whatever, you know, you park boats. I'm not a boatologist. Following the deadly collision, Adler's body was retrieved by the boat she had been wakeboarding from, and her friends on board called for help, but she could not be saved. Friends and family packed her funeral on Monday to say goodbye to the talented dancer who appeared in more than 100 performances with the Miami City Ballet. Quote, "You are taken from us way too soon, and the world has been robbed of all the things that could have been achieved," grieving father Matthew Adler wrote in an emotional letter that was read at the funeral. And I feel so sorry for this family. I feel sorry for the gentleman who was in the crash. And I wish I had a reason this happened. I really wish that things make sense, and sometimes they just don't. But at least they found the person, and they might be able to get to the bottom of this and make other people more safe on the water. Oof, just went through puberty. In my state, just cannot do anything right. Uh, in an unprecedented move, a prosecutor demands jurist recusal from the case due to an odd at-home visit where the judge, quote, "obtained personal knowledge," end quote, about a man who allegedly shot his own wife and a deputy. Now, Indiana can just not seem to be doing anything right, but, you know, why not just let the judge talk to the defendant? I'm sure that's, kosher. An Indiana prosecutor wants the judge overseeing a high profile criminal case to be removed over questions about his impartiality. Gregory Guilfoyle, 32, is facing a vast array of criminal charges over a late December 2022 shooting and kidnapping for the second time. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Run the record back. You are a twice accused kidnapper, sir? Maybe it's Satan. Can people just live in the zip code of do right? Of course they can't. The prosecution previously dropped the charges over a different dispute with the judge, complaining that the court was forcing both parties to go to trial before they were ready. The state dropped the first suite of charges in February, promising to refile them later on. On Tuesday, Franklin County prosecutor Christopher Hercup filed 12 charges, including 2 counts of attempted unaliving against Guilfoyle. That same day, the state filed a motion asking Franklin County Circuit Judge J. Stephen Cox to recuse or be removed from the case over an odd admission allegedly made by the judge himself. Now, I went to high school in Franklin, and I don't recognize any of these people, which makes me feel a little better about my life. Uh, Undergirded by the sheer number and variety of charges filed, the case against Guilfoyle is already complex. The defendant is alleged to have shot his own wife, Hannah Guilfoyle, who was 23 years old at the time, and the mother of his daughter, according to Hoosier state law enforcement. Rushed to a hospital across state lines in critical condition, Hannah ultimately survived. Yes, I'm glad she survived. And ma'am, if you need someone to hold your hand while you testify against this dingusberry, I'll be holding your hand. We're going to get this guy taken care of, allegedly. That alleged shooting was in service of a kidnapping the girl who was 20. So he was trying to get his daughter back, who was 23 months old at the time, according to state police. The impact of the alleged crime spree on the young child was exacerbated since it happened to occur on the night the bomb cyclone, the famously, really cold time where Juicy Smollett, happened to get attacked. And thank you so much for being a member for 5 months. I am so excited about the group that's forming and, having you guys here because I would already look at all these articles to begin with, but you guys seem to enjoy them and I enjoy telling them to you. So it was already, super cold. It was right before Christmas. So this dingleberry did this on December 22nd, 2022. Authorities noted at the time that the girl was treated for injuries sustained due to her father taking her out into the sub-zero temperatures. Sir, Snake Island, I don't even know if you're good for converting oxygen into carbon dioxide at this point. We got people for that, okay? At around 12:30 a.m. that morning, someone spotted a man carrying a child while walking along the highway in Brookville Township. Franklin County Sheriff's Department Deputy Aaron Bowers responded to the call, and both of the adults allegedly fired their weapons, a state police person said at a press conference. The deputy was wearing a protective vest and avoided injury, according to state troopers. Guilfoyle was wounded but taken to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center where he recuperated. I mean, I'm glad he will stand trial and we will get justice. The defendant would go on to convalesce further at his parents' home, and that's where the judge comes into the state's complaint. The prosecutor's motion takes Cox to task for allegedly visiting Guilfoyle at his parents' house, as a result, allegedly reaching some untoward and inappropriate legal conclusions about the case. Quote, Judge Cox described on record the personal interaction with the defendant and offered his opinion to the state, or as to the state of the defendant's mental health based on knowledge he gained as a result of this interaction. The Hurt Cup motion obtained by Newport, Kentucky-based Fox affiliate WXIX, which serves the broader Cincinnati metro area. Perhaps ironically, the prosecutor appears to be accusing the judge of prejudice against the defendant due to something he apparently learned during the visit to Guilfoyle's parents' residence. Quote, Judge Cox subsequently denied all of the defense's competency motions and petitions for an interlocutory appeal. The motion goes on. Later in the proceedings, prior to the status hearing, Judge Cox engaged in a conversation with court-appointed sanity evaluators outside the presence of the parties, then issued an order at the conclusion of the hearing that imposed a deadline for the completion of the evaluations and limited the evaluators to access to materials. While any given state's attorney would, in most circumstances, not object to procedural losses for any given criminal defendant, her camp is likely anticipating the potential fallout on appeal due to the interaction between Cox and Guilfoyle. I might send this to Dave because this is unprecedented. I've never, again, not a lawyer, but in the cases I've seen, I've never seen a judge actually go talk to the defendant and then talk to other people about the case without the state's attorney and the defense being there. And good on the state's attorney for actually saying, hey, this isn't good. This looks terrible. I would like to get this man to serve justice, and you are going to be, you're going to really, really upset that balance if you don't recuse yourself. In other words, if Guilfoyle was convicted, an appellate attorney would likely raise the same issues that are being raised by the state now. Her camp, in no uncertain terms, wants the judge nowhere near the case as it moves forward through the legal machinery. Quote, "It's clear the motion goes on that Judge Cox obtained personal knowledge of the defendant's mental health during the pendency of this matter, which has been an issue in dispute since very early in proceedings." So, I mean, like I said, good on the state's attorney for not using it to his advantage, even if the only reason he is being compelled to act, correctly is because the appellate attorneys would overturn this quicker than, greased lightning. At least he's making sure that he can get justice, or the victims can get justice without the threat of an appeal, because I can imagine how scary it's going to be for this woman to testify against him, and then to have it be overturned and he's back out. I would be terrified. In weird news, but okay, a Florida man is stunned that he's not a US citizen after voting, paying taxes for 60 years. Quote, "I acted just like a regular citizen." I mean, I am all the confused. Is he from Canada? A 66-year-old Florida man was gearing up for retirement and stunned to discover that he's not a US citizen when applying for Social Security payments, despite having lived in America since he was a toddler and voting in numerous federal elections for the last 6 decades. Jimmy Class said he was expecting to receive a letter from the Social Security Administration in 2020 telling him when he could expect to start raking in his well-earned benefits after decades of work, but instead he was informed that his money was frozen. News 6 Click Orlando reported, quote, "I got notified that it was frozen because I hadn't proved to them I was here legally. That was their determination," he explained. I feel so bad. He's got dude paid taxes, probably served jury duty. Now they're like, "Well, we don't." It's that full Mean Girls thing. Like, she doesn't even go to this school. We don't know her. Class's mother was Canadian. I called it. Those those Canadians are trying to get down here. And his paternal grandparents hailed from Germany, but what always reassured him that he was a US citizen was that his father was a natural-born American. Class, who was brought to the US when he was 2 years old in the 1960s, for decades figured that he had been granted citizenship through his father. Quote, "My dad's roots were in Brooklyn, New York, and 2 years into my existence, they decided to load up the truck and move to Beverly, so to speak," Class told the outlet, referencing a line from a theme song of a 60s classic, Beverly Hillbillies. "We moved to Tennessee Avenue in Long Island. To be more specific, we moved into the house next to my grandparents." Class also explained that years ago he was granted eligibility to join the Marine Corps uh, and was even accepted to become a police officer, both of which run vigorous background checks on applicants, but no discrepancy over his citizenship arose. Quote, "I was accepted, but I never took the jobs because I was newly married, had a kid on the way, and just bought a house," he said. Class, who is a registered voter with a Social Security card and valid driver's license, instead took a union job to support his family and acted like a regular citizen since he had no reason to think otherwise. I mean, I was accepted everything, photo ID, I voted here, he said. Good night, nurse. This is terrible, and I love the Beverly Hillbillies. Welcome, Peter A. Quote, "Never, ever, ever came about where I was here illegally, even though Social Security says I didn't prove it to them. They gave me a Medicaid card over a year and a half ago. Our government. Bureaucracy does not mean, troubleshooting or actually fixing a problem. And apparently he's like a quadricillion felon for voting in many, many elections, which is a federal crime according to the FBI. No one showed up at my door to arrest me yet, class uh, joked. But yeah, technically, if you vote and you're not legal, it's federal charges. Class has now been left with no choice but to go on the defense with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services to fix the problem, sending the agency multiple documents proving he's been living in the U.S. for over 60 years as a full citizen. I've sent all this stuff to, the immigration people, and they still denied me, Class said. He's even visited the Canadian consulate in Miami in hopes of getting things clarified, but to no avail. Even worse, the retiree has been using his savings to clear up the issue. Quote, I've been spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to try to get my money that I paid into Social Security my entire lifetime, he said. Quote, I even said to them, well, if you're not going to pay me monthly, give me everything that I paid with interest and we'll call it a day. And they go, oh, we can't do that either. And I said, well, what can you do? Class has said he's been forced to return to work because of the financial burden. He has even launched a GoFundMe to help raise money to hire an attorney and a genealogist, a person who traces or studies lines of family descent, to fight the Immigrations Council on giving him his Social Security benefits. A child born abroad automatically becomes a U.S. citizen if at least one parent is a U.S. citizen. If the child is under 18, a lawful permanent residence and residing in the U.S. under legal and physical custody of the U.S. parent, according to the Child Citizen Act of 2000. Now, I don't believe that will be grandfathered in. He would be grandfathered into that, but it seems like they've been updating things. Unfortunately for Class, this law was not in effect when he moved to America as a 2-year-old. Immigration Services said in a statement to News 6 Click Orlando that it is unable to discuss the matter, quote, due to privacy considerations. Yeah, our government is worried about privacy when every single time there's a hack, they're like, well, we don't know, but we're pretty sure we figured it out. As a matter of practice and due to privacy considerations, USCIS does not comment on individual immigration cases, and the agency does not share, confirm, or deny immigration information about specific individuals. We adjudicate each application on a case-by-case basis to determine if it meets all standards required under the law. Applicants receive a written decision in the mail which fully explains our action and lists any appeal rights. Dude, you know what? We all need to go help this GoFundMe because this is some BS to the max. This is some ridiculousness. In an update to a story that we've been covering, well, everyone's been covering, but it turns out that the crew that was, manning that ship that crashed into the bridge are basically marooned on the craft right now. They are, I guess they've been staying there for the last 7 weeks. I had no idea, but that's kind of insane. As a controlled explosion rocked the Dolly on Monday, nearly 24 sailors remained on board below deck in the ship's massive hull. The simultaneous blast sent pieces of Baltimore's once iconic Francis Scott Key Bridge into the dark waters of Maryland's Papsisco River. 7 weeks after the collapse that left 6 people on the bridge dead and the Dolly marooned. Authorities and the crew hope that the demolition will mark the beginning of a long process that has left 21 men aboard trapped and cut off from the world thousands of miles from their home. But for now, it remains unclear when they will be able to return home. The Dolly, a 940-foot or 289-meter container ship, was at the start of a 27-day journey from Baltimore to Sri Lanka when it ran into the bridge. And it left the ship stranded under a massive expanse of shredded metal. A preliminary NTSB report found that 2 electrical blackouts disabled equipment ahead of the incident and noted that the ship lost power twice in the 10 hours leading to the crash. The crew, made up of 20 people from India and a Sri Lankan national, has been unable to disembark because of visa restrictions, a lack of required shore passes, and parallel ongoing investigations by the National Transportation Safety Board and the FBI. Wolfram is correct. Hold on. They said this guy's not a citizen, even though his father is, but Obama is a citizen because his mother was. He should try running for president. If you don't give me my citizenship, I will run for president as God is my witness. Thank you, Wolfram, for the super chat, and that is a good point. He should send that in. When I'm done with this, I will try to link the GoFundMe on the description. But this is some BS for that man. On Monday, the crew remained on board even as authorities used small explosive charges to deliberately quote-unquote cut an expanse of the bridge lying on the ship's bow. Ahead of the controlled demolition, U.S. Coast Guard Admiral Shannon Gilreath said that the crew would remain below deck and the fire crew would be at the ready. Quote, they're part of the ship. They are necessary to keep the ship staffed and operational. Admiral Gilreath said they are the best responders on board the ship themselves. It will be a while, while the ship is likely to be refloated this week, it remains unclear when it will be able to make the 2 nautical mile journey to port. Among those who have been in touch with the crew is Joshua Messick, executive director of the Baltimore International Seafarers Center, a nonprofit organization that works to protect the rights of mariners. According to Mr. Messick, the crew has been left largely without communication with the outside world for a couple of weeks after their mobile phones were confiscated by the FBI as part of the investigation. They can't do any online banking. They can't pay their bills at home. They don't have any of their data or anyone's contact information, so they're really isolated right now, Mr. Messick said. They can't just reach out to folks they need or even look at pictures of their children before they go to sleep. It's really a sad situation. The plight of the sailors also attracted the attention of 2 unions representing them, the Singapore Maritime Officers Union and the Singapore Organization of Seamen. That's Seaman. Yes, no, Cheddar, you can stay in here for 5 minutes. 1 second. Okay, I'll open the door. You can go out. Let's go. Yes. I had to let her out because Thor was not there. They all like to hang out in my room, but then when I close the door, one of them is always left in here. It never fails. In a joint statement on the 11th of May, the union said that, quote, morale has understandably dipped, driven by unfounded fear of personal criminal liability and emotional distress. The statement also called for a swift return of the crew's phone, noting that lost communication with family members is, quote, causing significant hardship for the crew members with young children at home. David Hindle, the president of the Seafarers International Union said that, quote, however long the investigation takes, the crew's rights and welfare should not be infringed upon. We call on authorities to be mindful that the seafarers utilize mobile devices to conduct personal business for bill payments and, more important, transfer of money to their home country to sustain families, he said. Crew members are becoming demoralized without the basic tools we all take for granted. Andrew Milton, who runs Apostleship of Sea, how many daggone seafaring stuff? I did not know we had so many unions for the seafarers, but that's good. A program that ministers to ships coming through Baltimore told the BBC he visited the sailors 2 weeks ago and found them in good spirits despite constant worries. Quote, once we broke the ice and got everyone to say their name and what part of India they were from and talk about if they were married or had children, we got the ball rolling, he said. They were willing to kind of poke fun at one another a little bit, and we did our best to get them laughing and joking, hopefully taking their mind off of things for a few minutes. For the time being, the crew has been given SIM cards and temporary mobile phones without data including. Y'all, I would be lost. I would be like, what is my number again? Welcome, Giraffe Gal and Tamara. Welcome, welcome. They also received care packages from various community groups and private individuals, which in the recent week have included batches of Indian snacks and handmade quilts. Oh, people are so nice. This is what the news doesn't tell you. It's all these behind the things. Yes, they'll show you the big explosions and everything else, but most people don't read beyond the headline, and they don't know how many people, out of the kindness of their own hearts, are wanting to make these sailors, have at least a little bit of better life while they're here. They don't want to show this. They want us mad at each other. They want us, black pilled or green pilled or red pilled. But, if you look below the surface, there's generally kindness and togetherness that we can find. The BBC has also reached out to Unified Command overseeing the government's response to the Dali and the bridge collapse for clarity on when the sailors might be able to leave the ship and eventually be repatriated. Daryl Wilson, a spokesperson for Synergy Marine, the Dali Singapore-based management company, told the BBC that the crew is holding up well and the company representatives have been dispatched to Baltimore and have been checking on them constantly from day one. All their needs are being met to the best of our ability, Mr. Wilson said, adding that shipments of catered Indian food have been sent aboard and allow the cooks to rest. Various religious representatives, including Hindu priests. Do you call people, I have to look it up, but I didn't know that you called people who, like elders in the Hindu religion, priests as well. I learned something new today. Have been providing services and emotional support to those abroad. It's small things to us, he said, but they're big morale boosters. Mr. Wilson, however, said he was unable to provide a timeline for the crew to disembark, noting that in addition to investigation, quote, nobody knows the ship better than they do, and they are integral for it to function. Mr. Mesnick said he expects to be able to board the ship and provide emotional support as soon as it's moved out of the shipping channel. After that, he believes that a small group of sailors, perhaps 5 at a time, will be eligible for shore passes, albeit with heavy restrictions on their movement. They will, for example, likely be required to have an escort for the duration of their time on shore. Quote, I'm trying to figure out what the crew wants to do. I don't want to take them to a basketball game or a baseball game if they're going to be bored. So I've reached out to a local cricket club to see if we can organize a match. Some crew members, such as the ship's captain, have expressed interest in being somewhere contemplative in nature. We're just trying to help them breathe a little bit. He said they've been stuck on board this whole time. They need to enjoy a little more of the freedom that we enjoy every day. And welcome, Tim Swope. Yeah, we're still trying to figure out what happened in Las Vegas that no one knows. Yeah, I mean, uh, okay, let's not attribute to malice what just could be actually the ship went foobar. I doubt that any of these crew members were in a giant conspiracy to take down the Francis Scott Key, bridge because they just hate the bombs bursting in the airline. I mean, let's attribute to mechanical gremlins what is mechanical gremlin-y, and welcome, JKD Buck. In other news, McDonald's adds a sad option to its Happy Meal. Is McDonald's having an existential crisis just like the rest of us? McDonald's adds sad option to replace the Happy Meal smile. What about an F word one? Because that would be my one that I would choose. No need to turn that frown upside down. In honor of Mental Health Awareness Week, McDonald's is acknowledging that sometimes a Happy Meal is actually a sad meal. Okay, all right. I'll give them this one. But McDonald's, you are raking in the dough because you keep adding, money onto prices of everything. I'd rather just have everything go back to the prices it was when I was in high school, and that would make me smile again. Could we do that for mental health? TMC reported Wednesday that the UK division of the company is emphasizing mental health from May 13th to the 19th, which with a major rebrand of their iconic Happy Meal, dropping the smile and the happy uh, dropping the smile from the box and the happy from the menu item. Oh dear God, this is such corporate BS. I cannot even with this. So, how much money did they spend to change the boxes for a 3-day run, and yet they still can't, lower the prices on some chicken nuggets? I don't know. As a person, I would much rather just the prices go down than all of the money you spent on this BS. But That's that's what I don't get. I don't get corporations being acutely aware of social problems. That is not their business. Sell me the chicken nuggets and don't tell me anything about how to live my life. I already know that the Diet Coke that I'm getting with the, biggie size meal is not going to do anything, but leave me alone and let me pay 1994 prices. People in the UK who want to order the beloved item will be ordering the meal and receive a plain red container with a small reminder on the bottom that it's okay not to feel happy all the time. Look, that is a wonderful sentiment. We should stop editing our feelings and be able to express them in productive ways. But we're also trying to, stay hydrated, pay our bills, worry about inflation, and, not be a major weirdo half the time. So, you changing the box on the Happy Meal probably not going to save anyone's life, but it is okay to be not to be okay. I can't wait to see what they do for June. The puzzling redesign comes from Leo Burkett, UK, and Ready 10 in an effort to reflect the results of a study showing that 48% of the kids in the UK feel pressured to be happy all the time. McDonald's distributed 2.5 million not so happy meals over 1,000 locations in the UK, and some of the locations also received a range of emotion stickers for kids to replace the iconic smile with another emotion of their choosing. There you go. McDonald's is proselytizing to your kids about feelings. We are living in idiocracy. Quote, we know how important it is to stimulate open conversations about mental health and families. Yeah, you know what? This is a good idea to have, but I don't want McDonald's telling me what to do with my family. Through this change to our Happy Meal box, we hope that more families are encouraged to kickstart positive conversations around kids' emotions and well beings. Okay, I will say those are important things, but again, I don't need McDonald's. At least let Ronald McDonald tell me how to raise my kids, or Grimace, or the Hamburglar. But, I'd rather giant corporations not really worry about my kids' mental health. In other news, we have an Iowa sheriff that is apparently up to no good, allegedly. Quote, blood out of a turnip. Sheriff collected hefty jail fees from inmates and used the funds for ice cream and cotton candy at a range party. Range for the force multipliers. A lawsuit says, I do like her hair. I love blue. And she looks very nice in her outfit. And they, of course, got him making a doofy face. An Iowa woman, thank you, Jesus, it's not from Indiana this time, at least allegedly, filed a civil rights lawsuit Monday against a local sheriff for his aggressive policies to, quote, get blood out of a turnip, end quote, by allegedly forcing low-income individuals to pay exorbitant jail fees that were then used to fund a gun range stocked with cotton candy and ice cream. Wait a minute. I would like cotton candy and ice cream. How might I exploit money out of people? Sir, if you're gonna be an absolute dingleberry, don't make it obvious. I mean, basically, this is like Juicy writing a check to the other guys and like not putting not for fakeness. Sir, you are a public official. You are not going to get away with anything. What the hell is wrong with you, allegedly? Letitia Roberts served a total of 9 days in county jail for 2022 for operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated. Good. After Roberts was released, she received an invoice for $730 for the time she was detained at the Black Hawk County Jail. Nothing like going to jail and then getting a bill from the jail. This is just stupid enough to be real in 2024. Roberts is a single mom of 3. Then what the hell were you doing driving drunk? Look, it's one of the things that I really have to struggle giving grace on, because every daggone time, it is never the drunk driver that gets hurt. It is always like a bus full of puppies and nuns, and I'm getting tired of it. So, ma'am, if you are a single mom of 3, you probably made a dingleberry mistake, but I kind of don't feel bad-ish. Roberts is a single mom of 3 who says the $730 bills is a massive debt for her and that she still struggles to pay it more than 2 years later. Okay, maybe you have reformed. I am willing for everyone to atone and get redemption, except maybe Kevin Spacey. But I'm a weirdo and I have rules and morality. The ACLU of Iowa filed a class action lawsuit on Roberts' behalf in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Iowa. The filing names Black Hawk County Sheriff Tony Thompson and Black Hawk County as defendants. Quote, as a regular citizen and being involved within the community, it makes me upset because a sheriff's office is supposed to uphold the law, not bend it, Roberts said in a statement. As a mom, it makes me upset because that is money that could be going towards feeding my family, but instead it was put toward things like cotton candy and ice cream machines for funsies. Under Iowa law, county sheriffs have the right to collect quote-unquote jail fees from released inmates through the process of civil reimbursement claims. Tony Thompson, the elected sheriff of Black Hawk County, Iowa, developed a jail fee system for the county whereby inmates must repay the county $25 for booking fees and $70 per day for their incarceration for room and board. Sir, You magnificent, ridiculous bastard. Oh my God. So not only are they forced to be there by the state, but then he is charging them for their bologna sandwich and, turtle vests. I love it. This is this is just ridiculous enough to be real in the year of our clown 2024. And welcome, Squab Bob, on Rumble. I can't. The fees are collected periodically after the inmates sign a confession of judgment form on their release. Inmates are required to sign the confession of judgment forms in order to have their possessions returned as they exit the jail, and the forms are neither notarized nor signed in the presence of counsel. According to the lawsuit, the system results in hundreds of thousands of dollars in income to counties each year, all without any process whatsoever and without a judge reviewing the claims, and even without individuals consulting their attorneys. Iowa state law dictates that 60% of the funds collected for jail fees are to be used for the courthouse and jail infrastructure or medical expenses. However, the remaining 40% is distributed by a county board of supervisors. The lawsuit alleges that in Black Hawk County, at Thompson's urging, the funds were used for recreation at the shooting range. Sir, are you trying to be super mayor? Tiffany Henyard has you beat on how ridiculous and shady you can be. Robert's lawsuit takes aim not only at the use of the funds collected, but also the method the department uses to obtain the funds. Confessions of judgment. Roberts and the ACLU argued that having inmates sign documents promising to pay jail fees essentially circumvents a courtroom process during which judges are often willing to waive jail fees. He is shady with a side of gravy. You know when your brain gets so fast going about what you're going to say and then it comes out wrong? I know. Now I want a cotton candy blizzard from Dairy Queen like uber bad, but seeing as how I'm trying to be all good and not eat a whole heck ton of sugar, and I never have and never will get Uber Eats for a daggone blizzard, but oh my gosh, does that sound yummy right now? The department's use of confessions of judgment ensures that no judge ever reviews the reimbursement claims, the complaint reasserts. Thompson knew that the department would be more likely to collect jail fees when those fees are collected via confessions of judgment, said the plaintiff, who included Thompson's own words to show the sheriff's intent. Quote, "Now, to qualify some of these assertions, here's the simple math. We are averaging approximately $300,000 in net collection each year. The board, I fear, is making the assumption that someone focusing full-time efforts can likely collect more than that. Perhaps for a short time that will be true, but we know what the present population is of the jail, and we know that what the trend has been over the last 5 years, particularly in the COOF. We've had very few time-serving inmates in our jail. We can't even use time servers to work as laundry or floor workers anymore because they don't exist in the facility. Even fewer are being required by judge to repay the room and board fees. In fact, if there are fees that are ever being waived by the court, room and board are generally the fees that the judge is willing to waive. So that population that we are able to collect from continues to decrease drastically. Sir, why not just write, I am now evil? Like all you need is a cat and and welcome H Fred 65. Glad you are joining us for a few minutes. The filing included an email from Thompson to the Board of Supervisors that I just read to you. The filing alleges that $590,217.36 in jail fees were collected by the county from July 10th, 2021 to July 10th, 2023. Moreover, the complaint says that the Raymond Range shooting facility is, quote, a source of pride for the sheriff who has hosted events for employees and their families at the range. According to the lawsuit, Thompson tenaciously pursued the collection of jail fees for the purpose of gaining the maximum amount of funds. It seems like you're shocked that the government would be squirrely with everyone else's money. Ma'am, let me introduce you to the government. Be late on your taxes at all. Even Wesley Snipes couldn't get away from the IRS. The lawsuit also calls to attention the correspondence between Thompson and the Board of Supervisors over the use of the unrestricted jail fees typically placed in the 40% fund. At an October 2022 meeting, the board passed a resolution that placed all jail fees in the county's general fund to be spent only as approved by the board. After that meeting, Thompson emailed the board and said the department would no longer collect jail fees at all and would instead focus on activities which directly benefit and affect the department itself. Robert's complaint included a copy of the email. The plaintiff also pointed out that Thompson is quite public about the importance of aggressively pursuing jail fees from people who are often unable to pay. In the same email to the board, Thompson explained that most jail fees go uncollected. Sir, are you a Bond villain or, well, more like a Austin Powers villain? No, I would like to write all of my crimes down and have them in email and Instagram and the Twitters. Experience tells us that only 30 to 40% of fees are actually collectible, Thompson lamented to the board, then characterized the reality as, quote, blood out of a turnip mentality. Sir, you is so screwed. Robert's lawsuit raises multiple civil rights claims for due process violations and unlawful confessions of judgment. Roberts and the class of plaintiffs are requesting monetary damages and a court order to discontinue the jail fee program. Now, here's the problem with that. They're still going to get money from somewhere. So either you pay jail fees or they are going to add a new tax for property. The government does not like to cut off sources of income without another 8 to figure it out. Quote, the sheriff's department has imposed a high cost that should never be charged in the first place, said Charles Moore, a staff attorney for Public Justice Debtors Prison Project, in a statement. And the sheriff's program has been incredibly profitable, pocketing roughly $300,000 a year by collecting these fees. Quote, most of the people paying are trying to get their lives together and under extreme financial stress, so wrongfully extracting money from them at that difficult point is particularly heartless, Moore continued. This practice needs to stop, Rita Bettis Austin, ACLU of Iowa legal director, said in a statement, quote, the sheriff is getting people to sign away money that they don't have and give up rights that they shouldn't give up by asking them to do so when they have completed their sentence, but before they're released from jail when they are not yet free. In those circumstances, they have no bargaining power, no attorney, and zero meaningful understanding of what they are doing and what they are giving up. Batiste Austin said about the people that are being made to pay exorbitant jail fees, this might be the one time that I agree with the ACLU currently. I am just as shocked as you are. And Mess, I like your new avatar. Quote, I take full responsibility for the mistakes I have made along the way in life, Roberts said in an ACLU statement, and also why I'm working on being the best version of myself as a mother and God-fearing woman to make my and my 3 children's lives better. However, that does not give the sheriff's office an excuse to wrongfully take money from me or anyone else. Thompson provided a statement to Law and Crime via an email. Did you just write, I am all the guilties? Sir, you are. To Law and Crime via an email Wednesday stating that he would gladly and openly, transparently release information. Sir, you have been transparent about what you want to do with these fees. In fact, you should have been a little bit opaque. Opacity would have helped you in this particular endeavor. Thompson said in a statement emailed to Law and Crime that after a 2020 change in Iowa state law, jail fee charges could no longer be assessed to an inmate's underlying criminal case and instead must be filed as a separate civil action. Quote, when inmates are released from Black Hawk County Jail, they receive a statement as to what is owed and are given the option of signing a confession of judgment and, if desired, entering into a payment plan for all or a portion of the outstanding administrative costs and room and board. Inmates are not required to sign confessions of judgment, enter into payment plans, or agree to the amount owed for administrative costs or room and board fees. No, I'm sure that you're just standing there saying, would you like to leave and go back to your regular life? Or you can not sign the paperwork and we could stay here. As for the use of the funds, Thompson said that it was his discretion, quote, some of the nominal expenditures stemming from the jail fee collections were spent, quote, promoting days where officers can spend time with their family and community, dispelling myths about the office and ensuring better education of the public and better informing their families on how to maintain their own safety. Thompson said the department finds such days to be, quote, fulfilling, rewarding, and full of ice cream and cotton candy. I mean, that would sell me on most illegal stuff, to be honest. Thompson noted that the public was included in some of these days in an effort to create dialogue and relationships and build commonality amongst neighbors and a foundationally establish reliability in our agency without stigma and without any drama. Okay, sir, let me explain something to you. If you are getting a bunch of money from shenanigans and then you use it to try to boost your public image, it doesn't work. I mean, most people are not swayed by cotton candy like I would be. It seems ironic that the ACLU would call this practice into question when these are the very actions and law enforcement model that they've been demanding since George Floyd, Michael Brown, Breonna Taylor, and beyond. Sir, don't bring those names up. This dude's never going to win anything. Again, this dude is out on his behind. Thompson commented about Robert's lawsuit. Further, it seems disingenuous to have these very programs be paid by the hardworking taxpayers when they are the ones that were already victimized by the offender. Thompson said that when inmates paid jail fees, quote, they are helping to fund training for law enforcement professions, families, and our communities by providing programming that destigmatizes the profession of law enforcement just a little bit, and said that better trained, healthier, emotionally sound, sir, you got them a cotton candy machine and some ice cream. And look, I'm not trying to create fluffy on fluffy, crime or anything, but sir, you look like you and little Debbie are friends, okay? Because honest to God, who can say no to a Star Crunch? So there you go. I have a feeling that this officer is going to go down. I could be wrong. Let's see. I know I had a not terrible. Okay, for our final story. Apparently, this happens at Annapolis every year. Let's see here. A greasy, monumental ritual at the Naval Academy ends after more than 2 hours. I know, it really does. We're all going to go to the gas station now and try to get some ice cream and cotton candy and mix it together. We're all gonna have a little Bobby Hill moment where it's like, "You know what? I could use a fruit pie too." It took Naval Academy plebs 2 hours, 19 minutes, and 11 seconds Wednesday to accomplish the ultimate in upward mobility, scaling a greased obelisk and swabbing out a cup with a cap this year with an unusual hitch. The annual grueling, slippery ritual marking the completion of the pleb year ended with 20-year-old Californian Ben Lissigang standing victoriously on the shoulders of scores of classmates and placing an upperclassman's hat atop Herndon Monument. Well, there you go. I mean, you know, a bunch of dudes hanging out together figured this out like, what should we make the freshmen do? Well, I don't know. We don't have a pig to grease. Let's make them climb this thing with, you know, while we're spraying a hose on them. It sounds like would build camaraderie. Okay. BL lazy dudes, men, a bunch of men get together, they put grease on an obelisk. I mean, it's a it's a fairly phallic symbol with a bunch of semen around it. I'm sorry, that was a low joke. Distant, probably never, it's me. The class of 2027 worked together to scale the 20-foot or 6-meter obelisk that was covered in vegetable shortening to replace a pleb Dixie cup with a white canvas sailor hat with an upturned rim, with the upperclassman's more formal hat. There were about 1,300 plebs in the class, according to Academy spokesperson Elizabeth B. Wrightson, and after the climb is complete, they are called fourth-class midshipmen and not plebs. It is said that a person who gets the hat on top of the monument will be the first admiral in the class. Look, that guy has had a lot of Monster Energy drinks. That's just all that happened. They're just and there are females there too. They're helping out everything. Who the hell, who is just sitting around and said, you know what? We have some Crisco and we have an obelisk. Sounds like something I would do, to be honest, which scares me because I should never be the voice of reason and or, the person that decides anything. Under rainy skies in Annapolis, Maryland, the plebs linked arms around the monument's base to build a pyramid, clearing grease from the monument's surface and enduring a constant spraying from hoses. Around the 2-hour mark, one pleb finally got close enough to place the upperclassman's hat near the obelisk's pinnacle. Many of those in the pyramid dropped to the ground as the crowd celebrated, but in an uncommon scenario, the Dixie Cup hat remained in place, Wrightson said. The plebs quickly started back up to finish the job. Minutes later, the same pleb whipped the top of the obelisk, still lathered in white with shortening, with a waterlogged, so I think they meant white, with a waterlogged shirt, and knocked down the upperclassman's hat. This looks like Human Centipede 3. This does not look healthy or happy, but I'm glad they got the hats. The hat was handed back up, and he finally knocked down the Dixie Cup hat, slid the upperclassman's hat into place, prompting uproarious cheers from the crowd below. Academy Superintendent Vice Admiral Yvette M. Davis congratulated the class and introduced Lissigang, a midshipman fourth class from Rancho Santa Maria, California. He is in the fourth company. Quote, all I have to say is we went out there, we executed on the controllables, and that was working together, Lissigang said, and let's go. Noting that they are a link in a chain, Davis passed on messages from the class of 1977, urging them to never forget what it is like to be a pleb and asking them to give fair winds and following seas to the class of 2077. The absolute editing problems. It's 2027, not 2077. True, but why wouldn't you make biscuits? You have that much Crisco, you make a heck ton of biscuits, and we are in business, ma'am. Yes, it's called a copy editor, AP, because it's the class of 2027, not 77. You represent so much, but not just the past, but the future, Davis said. The climb began in 1940, and the placement of an officer's cap atop the obelisk to show that they had conquered pleb year came 7 years later, according to the history of the event by James Cheevers, a former senior curator at the U.S. Naval Academy Museum. Upperclassmen first smeared grease on the monument to increase the difficulty in 1949. They put the first Dixie cup atop the monument before the climb in 1962. Records of how long it took each class to scale the monument are not complete, but the shortest time is believed to be 1 minute 30 seconds in 1969. Giggity, a year the monument wasn't greased. The longest was more than 4 hours in 1995 when upperclassmen glued the Dixie cup down. I see you, 1995 class, and I approve. That was a marvelous jackbutted thing to do to these boy kids. So there you go. They were successful and victorious. It does kind of look like Human Centipede, the 30th sequel, but there you go. And ladies, a bunch of men shirtless. I am sending you guys over to, I think, Questioning Reality, and he is going over, I believe, Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, but I am not quite sure. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I will see you tomorrow morning. It is Friday, and it will be all of the Fridays. Just as a gentle reminder, there will be no Legal Shenanigans Theater on Saturday. I am going to get my kitten. So I get to drive near Delphi and get a kitten. It's like the funnest Saturday ever. I will see you guys in the morning. Have a great evening. Be nice to yourself. Be nice to others. Let's make our circles of kindness connect, and the world won't be such a weird place. Or it'll still be weird, but at least people will be nice. That's the kind of world I want to live in. Bye, guys.